Good evening, everyone. This is Making Waves with Pastor Mia on Heaven 600. And tonight's roundtable panelists are
Zachary Terry Bay, Turnaround Tuesday, part of Build.
William T. Glover Bay, a part of Turnaround Tuesday and a part of Build.
Jake Burzoff Cohen, organizer with Child First Authority and a part of Build.
And tonight's show is called Discovering the Organization Build. Now, my first question is to Jake. Please tell us what Build is. Please tell us what the mission and purpose of Build is, please.
Great. So BUILD stands for Baltimoreans United in Leadership Development. BUILD is a broad-based organization, which means we are composed of member institutions all across Baltimore City. Those include congregations, churches, and synagogues, as well as schools and nonprofits. The mission really, Pastor Mia, it's built up in the name, Baltimoreans United in Leadership Development. We are focused on developing leaders inside of the city, inside of our institutions, to be able to build power and create change throughout Baltimore.
All right, now tell me why clergy in Baltimore City and business owners in Baltimore City really should be interested in your organization.
Absolutely. So Baltimore, as we all know, is a city that needs an engaged citizenry. Right? We have a responsibility inside of Baltimore to make this our home a stronger place. And the only way we can do that, we believe, is by working together. So for clergy, for business owners, for leaders throughout Baltimore City, we're founded on the principle that if we can relate to one another, we can create, based on our common self-interest, then we can really drive change in Baltimore City. We can make this place a better place to live, work, worship, play, be. And this conversation has to be driven by the people who live here, by the people who created this city. It can't just be driven by folks who are in elected office. That's the responsibility of our congregations and our businesses and our schools.
How old is your organization?
So BUILD was started in 1978. It is a member of the Metro Industrial Areas Foundation. The Metro IAF is composed of different organizations such as BUILD, all up and down the East Coast or the east of Chicago. And inside of our small area in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we have 5 organizations.
Oh, wonderful.
In Howard County, PATH, People Acting Together in Howard. In Montgomery County, AIM, Action in Montgomery. In Washington, D.C., the Washington Interfaith Network, WIN, and in Northern Virginia, VOICE.
What positive changes in the community has Build already helped to put into place?
All right, so we started in 1978, so I had to go back a ways.
Okay.
I won't go back, from the early days. Our first issue was around redlining in Baltimore City.
Okay.
And banks not giving loans to folks who, to people of color in different neighborhoods. So that was actually the first issue. That and rats were the first issues.
Rats, all right.
Hey, it's a problem today.
Yes, it is.
So from the beginning, over time, BUILD has created, along with partners inside of city government, inside of the school system, at times with the Greater Baltimore Committee, with leaders throughout the state. We've created many different programs, opportunities, organizations to be able to continue driving change. So one, for example, was College Bound, which helps get students into and through college in Baltimore City. One of our more successful, that's a phenomenal program. Another organization BUILD created in the mid-90s was Child First Authority. And Child First, really quickly, is the largest funded after-school program in Baltimore.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
we work with 1,500 students in 11 different schools. We are a community school partner for 7 schools. We provide wraparound service to families, and Child First came out of a listening campaign inside BUILD congregations where folks got together, and we asked the question, what is the greatest issue that you struggle with? And many people answered, my issue is I have a full-time job or 2 full-time jobs. My children get out of school at 2:30 or 3 o'clock. It's a dangerous time. This is 1995, 96.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with my children during that period of time. Rec centers were closing. We kind of stripped out arts and music and a lot of physical activity inside of schools. And so we wanted to create something that would address those needs. And so we worked with then Mayor Schmoke to create Child First Authority. It's grown, it's evolved, and it's also done something really unique inside of Baltimore that a lot of places are trying to figure out. which is how then you organize parents and teachers and school administrators inside of schools. How can you, like we do in congregations, how can you get to a school, identify leaders and potential leaders who can relate to one another
Mhm.
and identify issues that are both important in their school communities, but also important to others, other school communities as well, and then be able to drive change in those issues. So we've been able to create really inside of Build Child First, and then with partners across the city through the Baltimore Education Coalition, the strongest education advocacy organization in Maryland, certainly.
Oh, wow, that's phenomenal. Now, I know there
Oh,
are
wait, pass
probably.
me, I've got so much more.
Well, wait a
Real
minute.
quick,
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
So
Go
we
ahead.
brought the living wage to Baltimore
Okay.
in 1995, first ever living wage legislation that's
Okay.
ever passed in the United States. And then, just real quick, our biggest victory, certainly one that I'm incredibly proud of, as it began, as it sort of was created, as I began organizing,
Mhm.
was the $1 billion Transform Baltimore campaign that we won with the Baltimore Education Coalition, which is going to rebuild, hopefully above this number, but at this point it's estimated to be 23 to 28 schools in Baltimore City. To
Mhm.
either completely knock them down, rebuild them, brand new 21st century learning institutions, or to completely renovate, gut, and make our schools have our schools really lead in Maryland, in the country, and more importantly, really give our kids a shot to just create and take education with any.
Wow. Wow, well, I'm definitely impressed. I know that I have some listeners and probably some clergy that are chomping at the bit to find out how they can contact your organization. Can you give us a contact number, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the contact I'm going to give you is Ojeda Hall, who is the lead organizer of Build. Her email address is omhall, Hall, 10 @gmail.com. And her phone number is 443-253-9338. So Ojeda, when you get these calls, you said I could get your number on air. And if you want to find more about Child First, let me give you my number as well. So my contact, I'm Jake Berzoff Cohen. My email address is jcohen@childfirstauthority.org, and phone number is 413-575-9128.
Wonderful. Now, real quick, you're listening to Pastor Mia on Heaven 600, and tonight's sponsors are the Nelson's Autos and the Home Store. Again, that's Nelson's Auto and the Home Store. Now, Jake, please tell my listeners what campaigns Build and organizers and members are actively participating in right now to make a positive difference in our community.
Absolutely. And I'm really, really proud and happy to be here with William and Zachary to help tell the story of what we're doing today. So I'll start with some of the education work that we're doing currently, and then I'll turn it over to them to begin talking about Turnaround Tuesday, which is a really transformative new organization that they're building over in the east side of Baltimore. So as far as the education work we're doing, so this year, when Governor Hogan proposed his new budget for the state of Maryland, it had some pretty severe, somewhat draconian cuts that really hit Baltimore hardest. So Baltimore faced a $35.5 million loss to education. And so inside of our Child First schools, we spent time, as soon as that budget was released, gathering parents and talking this through and just asking the question, what would that cut if it came to your school? And it was, estimated to be, depending on the school, could have been $100,000, could have been anywhere from $100,000 to about $400,000. What would that mean to your school? What would that mean to you, to your family? So we spoke and listened to about 350 people inside of our schools in about 3 weeks' time. And what we heard, were stories about parents that, whose children are in the Child First program, who rely on Child First, who are, that have learned to dance, that have totally developed into young adults, and who would just be devastated if the school couldn't afford a program. Or parents who, they have special needs children, and the idea that they would lose a teacher and, their children be forced to go into a class that has 30 other kids in it. It was terrifying to them. So really, real stories that you don't want to have to hear, but that we do in order to be able to understand what folks are dealing with and what they would want to do. So after hearing this, we set up several opportunities for our parents and our leaders in our congregations, our clergy members, to go to Annapolis to meet with legislators on the Appropriations Committee in the House, on the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, as well as inside of the Baltimore City delegation. And so we went down multiple times, and Zachary and William came down, were part of a few of those meetings.
Yes.
And we also then attempted to meet with Governor Hogan. And so we invited the governor to come to Baltimore City to hear from parents about what these cuts mean. We gathered 120 people at Roland Park Elementary Middle School, and he didn't come.
Wow,
So,
that's a lot of people.
a lot of people. No, and so perhaps he had someone else to do that night, so give him the benefit of the doubt. So we had reached out to him a few different times to set up a meeting. We hadn't quite heard back. And so we decided to go and seek him out
Okay.
and see if we could set a meeting up with him. So on a early Wednesday morning, about 50 of us got on a bus and went down to the one place we knew he would be, which was the Board of Public Works.
Mm.
So I'll turn it over. Do you want to speak a bit about what that was like?
Yes, I had the fortune to be on that bus with the 50 of us who got there so early that we were able to take up all the seats where all the contractors would normally be sitting at.
Okay.
And we caused a panic,
Ooh,
right? The security didn't know what to do.
making waves.
His chief of staff ran and they asked us, could we move? And we said, no. So politely, so professionally. And so they said, well, what do y'all need? What do y'all want? Because we all had on these beautiful blue Bill shirts.
Ah,
So,
silently protesting. Okay.
right. Prayerfully protesting.
Oh, no, Pastor, we weren't protesting. We just wanted to come to the meeting. Isn't that right?
Thank you. That's all we wanted.
Occupying seats.
Yes.
Occupying seats. Okay.
And the chief of staff politely came and said, well, how can we help y'all? What did we do? Well, we just politely said to him that we had tried to meet with the governor on several different occasions. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. He said, we want to meet y'all now.
I bet he did.
Right? And he said, when can that be? He said, when do you want it to be? So we came up with a date on the 13th. And this was like on the 8th or 9th that we were there. So it was very early, quickly, that we were able to get a meeting. And it just so happened that we went down again that day for education. And we found out as well that they were also in the process of implementing a bill for ex-offenders,
Okay.
for employers that have a tax break to hire ex-offenders. So we were really happy about that. We was able to stay for that. But I think most of all for me personally, to have that experience and exposure, it really lifted my spirit
Okay.
as an ex-offender.
Yes.
It engaged my excitement. It just did so much for me just to be a part of that. It was just all amazing to me. So we had a meeting that 13th as well with the governor, and we learned some really exciting things that I don't know.
Yeah, so we begun a relationship with the governor. And so that's hopefully going to move forward. He's interested in a lot of the work Bill's done. Should have mentioned also Bill has, with our partner TRF, built several hundred homes in East Baltimore in the neighborhood of Oliver and moving into Johnston Square, and through some amazing congregational work there with clergy members pooling resources to renovate homes that have been vacant for years. A neighborhood that had 50% vacancy rate.
Oh wow! I got to get you over to West Baltimore.
I know. Let's see what we can create in West Baltimore.
Right.
And so to generate a market where there formerly was not one. So all that to say, hopefully the governor will become involved in that housing work that we're doing there, which is actually what where Turnaround Tuesday was created. And importantly, the budget right now, the Appropriations Committee, which is led by Delegate Maggie McIntosh from Baltimore, they were able to restore education funding. The Senate Committee, the Budget and Tax Committee, basically passed it pretty similarly back. It's now in a joint conference committee.
Oh, wonderful.
So hopefully, prayerfully, we will see full education funding restored from the state level. There's still a few things they're ironing out, we hope to see that they will put no cap on inflation. So,
Okay.
which would basically mean as the cost of educating children goes up every year, that we don't cap that. We don't cap how much the state's gonna spend arbitrarily. We make sure that as costs go up, we spend that much because we think our kids are worth it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They are worth it.
So that's where they're at. And then, Baltimore in particular is in a somewhat funny position because we lost a lot of money this year from state funding, not because of a cut from the governor, but also because our wealth has increased compared to other counties. And what that really means is that the state calculates wealth based on how much your property values have increased and also how much income has increased and a few other things.
Okay.
And Baltimore's property values have increased a lot, but we haven't been taking in more taxes because we've been subsidizing a lot of that development that's been occurring.
Ah, like the
areas
casinos.
Harbor East, those areas in
Okay.
particular have gotten a huge amount of subsidy. And
Okay, so they
this
don't
is
have to pay taxes,
Exactly.
free taxes,
free money.
free money,
And that's
okay, that
really
we're not
hurt us.
being able to use.
That's right, so that's really hurt us, because the state doesn't take that into account. They say, well, y'all should be getting the money, and, if you make decisions to give it back to developers, that's on you. So we faced a big loss this year because of that. However, the good news is that it appears that the mayor has been able to locate some money, which would have been used to start development for the school construction project,
Okay.
but because they actually haven't put shovels in the ground yet, they haven't started.
All right,
So she may have some extra money from that project, about 20 million, which may go to the school system,
okay.
should go to the school system. We're looking to see that happens, to cover any additional loss from those subsidies.
Okay, but right now, we're talking about a perceived wealth
That's right,
that Baltimore supposedly has.
that's right.
That is the basis around why they justify giving a budget cut to the Baltimore City school system.
Yes and no. So,
Okay.
so that's not why they got the budget cut. The budget cut was something else. That was just trying to balance the budget. And if everyone gets a cut, then everyone gets a cut. If Baltimore's kid gets a cut, then they get a cut. So that's that piece of it. So that's about 22 million of the 35.5 million.
Okay,
And then about 13.5 million came because of this perceived wealth increase that Baltimore got.
okay, okay.
And so that wasn't, the governor cutting, that was just the formula that's been around, the Thornton formula that calculates how much money every jurisdiction could get.
Okay, because our property taxes are rising.
Because our property values are rising.
Okay, property value, okay.
Taxes aren't coming.
Wow,
So, so that's what we've been working on
Okay.
as Build. And we're proud to say that, in 2 months of this work, we've been able to see an incredible shift of facing a $35 million cut to actually potentially seeing an increase, at least in that from the state level, for this year.
wonderful, wonderful.
So that's amazing news. And then I will say this, and that's due to the work of William, of Zachary, and of Build leaders across the city coming together. Now I will say this, the mayor will release her budget. The preliminary budget actually comes out tomorrow morning.
Okay.
The Board of Estimates at 9 a.m. And so as far as where we're gonna be going in the future around education work, we're gonna have to see what the mayor will be proposing this year for after-school and community school funding and for youth opportunities and for schools. And tomorrow we'll get a much clearer picture, and we may have to focus our work come tomorrow on the city side.
Ooh, okay, okay. Well, hopefully we are gonna keep a positive attitude that it's going to be a beautiful thing when we look at the budget tomorrow, when she presents it out to the public. I'd like to now switch it over and talk about what Turnaround Tuesday is. So, one of you handsome gentlemen, tell me what Turnaround Tuesday is. Let my listeners know.
Zachary Cherry Bay, Turnaround Tuesday, it's an organization that came together to help people gain employment, and they have a focus that is on ex-offenders as well, because they are the ones who are faced with the most problems in gaining employment upon their release from prison, or whatever their incarceration may have been.
Just to add to that, and I'd like to, if it's okay to start off with my journey and what led me to Turn Around Tuesday. if
Sure,
that's
go
okay.
for it.
Just briefly,
Tell my audience your name.
my name is William T. Glover Bay again, and I started off early with antisocial behavior. I grew up pretty poor, and I knew my mother. I grew up in a single-family home, and I knew we needed money. And I thought I found an answer in going out into street life. And I say street life because it's going to be a catalyst at the point that I make a little later on. And so I went out early and participated in a lot of antisocial behavior. And as a result of that, I found myself incarcerated for over 15 years of my life, off and on. The most time I spent in jail was 7.5 years. I've been shot 4 times on 3 different occasions. And during that 7.5 year stay, something had to change in me. And I just didn't believe that I needed to live like that. And I was able to grow up in prison, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I became free in my mind in a way that I didn't want to live in the street life anymore. And I wanted to live in society.
All right.
Yeah, up until that point, I didn't even know there was a difference. And so everything in my life began to change on a slow and gradual pace. And now, again, that because of my past, the challenges became enormous coming back out in society and trying to plug in. And that wasn't an easy task, and it's still not an easy task. I've been confronted with burial after burial, seeking employment based on my background, right? I remember running to a friend of mine one day, and I said, man, I need you to use all your powers and all your influence to help me get a job. And he said, man, come to Turn Around Tuesday. I said, Turn Around Tuesday? Another program? I'd have been through Goodwill Energy, I'd have been through this One Stop. None of those seemed to work for me. He said, no, this is different. We come to Turn Around Tuesday, we are connected with powerful organizations that are helping us get employment, helping us employ ex-offenders. And I said, where and when? And he told me to come at 8:30 on a Tuesday morning to 1700 Carolina Street and to Zion Baptist Church and come down in the basement and see what we do.
All right.
And that was about 3 months ago, and I've been there ever since. Turn Around Tuesday, for me, is an opportunity for ex-offenders, in particular, or anybody who is looking for employment, who have been faced with burial after burial and trying to seek employment. So this Turn Around Tuesday is a conglomerate of leaders that organize me, but in particular, how to become a leader. Right? It has allowed me to look at myself differently, to be able to represent myself and take it back into the community and invite other people to come as well.
Look at God. Look at God.
It's amazing. My whole attitude has changed in this very short time, my outlook on life. And I have an employment start date for May the 4th.
Oh,
As a
wow.
direct result of being in Turn Around Tuesday.
Go ahead.
Yes.
3 months.
3 months.
You done been to Annapolis, probably something you never thought you would do.
And,
All right. And you done talked, right, in Annapolis.
well, we were prepared to, but
Okay.
it didn't come to that.
Okay. But you still went to Annapolis
Yes,
and saw how change gets effectively done.
yes.
Okay, all right, look at God. And my next question would be, you didn't go into it, but if you're comfortable enough, when you said you were in street life, does that mean you were hustling, robbing?
All above, selling drugs, using drugs.
Okay.
Selling drugs, using drugs, and with that kind of lifestyle, it is always balance.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, I've been shot 4 times on 3 different occasions. And I wreaked havoc in my neighborhoods. You know, from all points of view. I'm ashamed to say that, but it's the truth. And that's why I want to get back to
Tell
the
the truth and
community.
shame the devil.
Thank you. But that came along with that lifestyle.
Mhm.
And street life and society living are two different things.
Absolutely.
And that's what was one of my eye openers when I became aware that there were two different ways to live. And I always say to people that a lot of people can get across the street, but if you bring streets into society, you're gonna have a short stay.
All right.
So what I've been able to do is transform my own thinking
Mhm.
into not using any of my past as a badge of honor,
Mhm.
but as a way to educate myself and other people that it's not a badge of honor to be incarcerated.
Mhm.
It actually is a shameful thing. It's not a badge of honor to think that it's okay to use profanity anywhere you go. It's not a badge of honor to think that street life is going to excel you in any levels. So I've been able to transform my own thinking and use it not only to better benefit myself, but other people that might have those same type of barriers in their thinking. So that's what I mean when I say street life. It has caused a great deal of harm in my own life, and I do everything I can each day to improve myself and help someone else at the same time.
Well, I thank you for sharing, and I would like for you to share your story with us now, please.
Zachary Terry Bay. I have a journey as well. Born and raised in Baltimore City, the youngest of 4 children. Got caught up into the street life as well. Sold drugs, carried guns. As a result, landed me in prison on 3 different occasions. Served almost 5.5 years. The last incarceration being the major one. I received 5 years for possession of a handgun, 5 years for possession of drugs. The handgun was a non-parolable sentence and it was ran consecutive, which gave me 10 years to do. During that incarceration, it gave me time to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And in doing so, I was able to give back. I had the gun conviction reversed,
Oh, wow.
which gave back the no parolable sentence. I didn't make parole, it didn't help me at all, but I guess that was their way of saying, you're gonna do some time anyway. I did the time, I came home, I've been home for this year, this August will be 20 years.
Oh, wow.
But I'm still faced with the same scrutiny that everyone else has faced, even though I've been home for 20 years. The barrier of my background still haunts me to this day. Since I've been home, I was able to start my own business. And I started my own business, ADAG Courier Service. I started on the grounds of looking for a way to help out individuals who faced with the same opposition I was faced with. The barriers of coming home with a criminal background that's going to always follow you.
Mhm.
Not sometime, but all the time. So it's like a double jeopardy, you know, you serve your time
Mhm.
in the penal system, and when you come out, you're still serving time because you have to build a relationship before someone will trust you enough to hire you. You have to make yourself useful and applicable to the job sets that you put your mind to. It wasn't easy. I've had a journey. And I started a courier service called ADAG Courier Service in the state of North Carolina. I tried to better myself by moving out of the state. You know, you can never run from crime, although I didn't get in any trouble down there, probably a speeding ticket or 2.
Okay.
I was a big guy weighing almost 400 pounds, so I had a heavy feet.
Oh, wow. Okay, you lost a lot of weight, but go ahead.
Yes. Since being home, I walked away from my business because my mom got sick
Mhm.
in 2007. She passed away in 2011.
Mhm.
You know, I walked away because I said I can always start another business. I can't get another mother.
All right.
She's gone,
Mhm.
so now it's time for me to pick the pieces up to my life and get back on track.
Okay, now tell me how Turnaround Tuesday is helping you do that.
Turnaround Tuesday helps me because it makes me feel good about who I am. And every time I go into Turnaround Tuesday,
Mhm.
I'm dressed because I feel dressing up makes you feel powerful.
Yes. Mhm.
It makes you, people look at you different. You know, I used to travel through my neighborhood and you have people that'll say, why you dressed up? You coming from court? Or you been to a funeral? I want to change that. I dress like this because I'm trying to gain gainful employment where I can be useful in bettering a business or a company with my ability and my skills.
So that's right, man.
Go ahead, sure.
A lot of Turnaround Tuesday came from, our organizer who was working in East Baltimore, Terrell Williams, who works with several congregations in the neighborhood, and is tireless man. Having conversations with men like William and Zachary and hearing from them, formerly incarcerated, having an incredibly hard time getting a job, but if you can help me get a job, not only will I be off this corner, I'll keep the corner clean. And so that's where Turnaround Tuesday has come from. So many men and women in that neighborhood and in Baltimore City facing these same barriers, this same double jeopardy, these same obstacles. And so I'm incredibly proud to say that we have partnered with some of the biggest job providers in Baltimore, in Maryland, frankly, to begin taking steps to pair these incredible men and women with gainful employment. So that's what Turnaround Tuesday is doing.
Wonderful. Jay, tell me why you think ex-offenders should want to join Turnaround Tuesday.
Can I answer that?
Please do.
Okay.
You tell them. You tell the
All right,
people.
go ahead. Good.
I really, one of the things that is happening for me, and what I see every Tuesday that I go there, or other days that I volunteer, was the high ethical standard that Bill represents, and the humility that breathes out of them compels me to want to do better alone. It's just amazing, that I've been to several other organizations or programs
Okay.
that offer job placement, job opportunities, and have never received anything. Have the certificates from completing those programs.
All right.
Bill does it so different than any other organization. In fact,
Fresh and different out the box.
there are people there who come there for the first time who might even still be struggling with drug use. And the owners, they say, don't go. They say, don't leave. We're still going to find a way to help you. There's no other, I've been in the human service field for a while. No organization says that. They say, go get you some help somewhere and then come back. Bill says, don't go. So for ex-offenders to have that kind of blanket encourages them to want to do better.
Would you say it's the relationship that builds starts with the relationship instead of
relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And instead of just trying to plug you in, it's actually spending, that our culture is to build a relationship first.
Spending time, you get one-on-one services, one-on-one talk services, to see where you are along the way, so that they can help you where you need to be helped. They tell you, if you have a dirty urine, don't stop coming. We want you to come back because we want to be able to help you. I started coming through a friend of mine, told me to come, and I liked what I was hearing. I liked the positive input that I got. I liked the support, and I felt welcome. So by me feeling welcome, I said I'm gonna come back.
All right.
And if I can bring somebody or tell somebody, I'm going to.
How long have you been with Bill?
About 2.5 to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Just additional to what he said, he talked about the one-on-one relationships that Bill develops. And they're so open and honest that they give them themselves as well as you give them. They don't just allow to sit and listen to you, which is a powerful thing, and have anyone listen to you. But they share of themselves, their own history, which automatically open you up. If you were reluctant, if you were hesitant about talking about yourself, they will help you get that out of you because they will give of themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's a phenomenon all in itself. That you have people that are already employed or already invested in the community, already doing multiple things, you still take time to sit and to build a relationship with you so that you can understand how they do it, so that you not only want to represent yourself, but you want to represent the organization as well. So that's why I highly encourage any ex-offender to come. And I tell everyone that I see.
Good.
Secretary Bay again. Build also, they help build leaders.
All right.
You know, they saw some leadership skills in me that I probably didn't see in myself, but they're going to help me bring them out. So as I develop, I can help someone else to develop and become a leader.
Amen.
It's a whole different strategy from other places I've been, a whole different approach, and it's nothing more powerful in the human service field than having relationships.
Okay. Well, in closing, so as we begin to wrap this up, I want you to give me the meeting location and date and time and a contact number if you have it for the Turnaround Tuesdays.
Yes, very quickly, it is at 1700 East Carolina Street.
North Carolina Street.
No, I'm sorry, North Carolina Street, and it's called Zion Baptist Church, and we meet in the basement at 8:45. I would say 8:30 every Tuesday morning. Contact number for Terrell is
202-427-6876. Terrell Williams.
All right. Give me the address again.
1700 North Carolina, Zion Baptist Church in the basement floor at 8:30 a.m. every Tuesday.
All
Please
right.
come before 9 o'clock because 9 o'clock you are late and you will be recognized as being late. We're trying to be punctual
Start on time, end on time.
and end on time.
All right. And how long is this meeting?
2 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, Jake, please let my clergy especially know of a website, a contact number, and an email address, and phone number again.
Absolutely. So one more time, you can contact Ojeda Hall, lead organizer for Build, at omhall10@gmail.com. By email is the best way to do it. Her phone number is 443-253-9338. And let me reiterate, for clergy leaders inside of Baltimore City and in Baltimore County, this organization is, if you wake up every day and you look around your parish or your community, or you look outside of your home and feel that something's not right, and you want to do something about it, that's what Build is about. So if that's the case, and you want to be connected to leaders across Baltimore City with that same sense that things aren't where they need to be and we're going to do something about it, please contact Ojeda Hall, omhall10@gmail.com.
For ex-offenders, this is William again. If you believe your conditions can be better, come to Turnaround Tuesday, be an organization.
Any final remarks? You good?
Yes.
All right. This has been Making Waves with Pastor Mia on Heaven 600. Have a blessed night. All right. Hello, this is Pastor Mia with the spiritual nugget for tonight. Blue, take vitamin B. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Psalms 103, verse 1. Good night. This is Making Waves with Pastor Mia on Heaven 600, and tonight's show is entitled Bruised But Not Broken. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you.
Stacy Jewel Lewis.
And would you please give my listeners some background information about tonight's topic and why this particular topic is so important to you?
Thank you so much, Pastor Mia, and it's truly a pleasure to be here. Today we're speaking about human trafficking, specifically when it comes to my story, sex trafficking. When I say my story, I mean that I am or I was a victim of sex trafficking. This was around the time frame of 1999 to around 2001, where I was a 19-year-old young girl with aspirations and dreams, a 3.5 GPA, headed to college, and one night I accepted a ride from an elderly gentleman, and this gentleman was around the age of 70 years old, and he looked like my grandfather, and he seemed safe. He used words like safe when he offered a ride to the train station. It was late at night, I had missed the bus, and I thought this was a good opportunity to be a little safer than walking through that neighborhood.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he had actually been paid by a trafficker to abduct young women who feel safe.
70-year-old?
70 years old.
Oh my God.
70 years old. And that age would disarm so many young women.
Yes.
They would automatically think, oh, this is just a nice old man who's trying
Yes.
to give me a ride.
A nice old gentleman.
A nice
yes.
old gentleman trying to help me be safer.
Yes.
When in fact he was paid by the very people we're trying to avoid. I was held in this captivity for almost 2 years. And I remember when I was there, a lot of the young girls, though I was 19, a lot of the girls with me were between the ages of 12 and 14 years old.
My God.
And I felt so much sorrow in my heart towards them, even though I didn't appreciate being here and I felt captive and my family was threatened if I tried to leave. At least I was old enough to be out of my pigtails. You know, I
Yes.
felt as though I had a developed mind before it was erased clean
Yes.
by this oppressor. And I remember looking at these young women and thinking to myself, when I am free, I will come back for you.
Amen.
I will come back for you. And that's what I'm doing now. I am going back and I'm using my voice and I am using not just the tragedy but the triumph of what God has brought me through
Yes.
and saved me from, to now go back and reach out and help others.
My God, my God. Hearing your story, I'm about to cry. But I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. What has given you the strength? That's what I need to know. What's giving you the strength? I know the motivation, but what's the strength? Because I can't even imagine being in college one minute and getting a ride from an old guy that you think is safe, and next minute you tied to something for 2 years. You
Mhm.
lived there. I can't imagine. And so I guess what's the strength that kept you going?
It's so interesting because I was headed to college, so I had all of the planning, getting
Okay.
ready to go. Hadn't quite made my way there, but I am looking so forward to telling this part because it really is the strength of Jesus Christ alone
Amen.
that was able to keep me and to strengthen me to come back and tell my story. And it wasn't always this way.
Okay.
In the beginning, once I escaped, I wanted to keep this part of my life hidden, as do many victims of
Yes.
sex trafficking. You feel so much shame and you feel so much guilt. You don't want people to know this about you. So I really did not go back and share my story. I clung to my faith. I went to school to NIAC for theology.
Okay.
And I started working and developed this career and really got to the top of my career as a marketing director at a real estate firm.
Okay.
And suddenly I had everything that I had dreamed of and wanted, and my past was well hidden. No one knew about it. And I had gotten married, and I thought to myself, thank you, Lord, I am here now.
Amen.
That's it, and that's all. And I had a devastating moment where the Lord really showed me myself
Mm-hmm.
and reminded me that He did not bring me out of this to hold my testimony back.
All right.
And it was then, I remember I was on the bathroom floor and I was in this chronic pain that doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And I remember saying, Lord, forgive me. I don't know if this is why I'm suffering, but I promised you that when I was free, I would go back for them.
All right.
And I'm not going to turn away today. And it started me on my journey, but He has been my strength through the entire time.
Well, I'm definitely a firm believer that He will turn your suffering into service.
Mm-hmm.
And I know myself as a rape victim and survivor, so many times we want to forget and move on and not deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relate. You know, it took me years of counseling to be able to publicly, you know, say that's something that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've dealt with it, I've survived, and I know that it happened so that I could help other women. So I commend you because, you know, part of the first steps of being able to offer service is healing yourself. You can't, as a pastor, we use the term, you can't serve while bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the truth. You can't until you're truly healed yourself. You can't really be useful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know how you escaped. I want to know. That's the part of your story that you haven't shared with me. So I
Right.
would love to hear that part of how you were able, my sister, in escaping.
Well, it was a few very strategig moments that
Okay.
occurred. I talk about it a lot in full detail in the play that I have called 7 Layers Captive, where I, go into these series of moments that began to happen to create this grand escape, it seemed like.
Okay.
Because first, a lot of people ask, why couldn't you just walk away? This is something that's constantly asked, because sex trafficking is a situation where I call it where you have invisible chains.
Absolutely. It's a mind.
People don't see that
Yes,
you're
mind
captive.
games,
They're
yes.
thinking you're free. You
Yes.
can absolutely walk away. Why can't you tell someone? But you're mentally captive. You're
Yes.
emotionally captive. Physical threats
Yes.
and physical violence. You are in every way a prisoner, but walking free
Yes.
in the street. So an escape for me, you would think, could be just finding a way to get away. You're outside, you're working, you're running into people every day.
Mhm.
It must have been easy, but it wasn't. In fact, I was beaten severely by my trafficker, to the point where I was hemorrhaging, and I was literally bleeding to death. He had decided that if I was not going to be with him, then I wasn't going to be alive. And I had, at this time, after almost 2 years, I had a son prior to being trafficked.
Okay.
And I couldn't see him, and I wasn't allowed to visit, and it had just taken a toll on me.
I bet it had.
And I couldn't take it anymore. So I said to myself, I would rather die than not see my child again.
Oh my God.
And he said, you will.
Mm.
You will. And he had proceeded at beating me and getting me to this place of almost near death. And some of the neighbors and the associates that we were with, which were all, criminal organizations that we were a part of, said, you're creating a lot of attention to my trafficker, and say, the police may come, you need to leave her alone for at least just a moment,
Okay.
to kind of cool things down. And it was at this very moment that I said, God, I have not spoken to you since I was a teen, and I'm ready to go, or save me. It was kind of like these words,
All right.
And the very next thing I remember, my bleeding stopped. I was healed completely. And it was impossible for this to happen because I was hemorrhaging so viciously. I wasn't going to a hospital, all of these things. And so for me to be healed at that moment, I realized then that there was a God.
Amen.
And I remember the trafficker coming to finish the job.
Okay.
And I remember saying to myself, what is your name? I remember this. My parents taught me this when I was young. I know who you are. And when my trafficker approached me, I remember jumping up and saying, I just met Jesus, And the look on his face was just like, what just happened? You're laying here dying, you're laying here bleeding to death, and here you are.
My God.
I just met Jesus, and he,
I just got goose chills.
for the first time, he didn't have anything to say.
I bet he didn't.
And it was then I realized, I said, wow, the power behind the name of Jesus is real.
Absolutely.
And not too long after that, my trafficker was arrested for murder, like almost the next day.
Oh my God.
And so once the trafficker was moved out of the situation, here's this open door to escape. And even then it took some time, and I go into that in the play. But even then it took some time to walk away from the family that had been developed with me and these other girls. Because when you're being tormented and you're going through these tragedies, you build
Mind
these
games,
relationships
yes, the prison.
with
And I'm on mine.
with other prisoners.
Yes.
And it's hard to leave them. It's hard to walk away from them. So
Yes.
even though I was free,
Forced family. I got you.
I was still held captive by that familiar bondage. But it was just a matter of time after he was arrested. The process just began where I began to pull free.
So what would you want other young women dealing with this current situation in their lives to know if they're listening?
That there is a way out. That you're not trapped, and that you're not alone. That there's always a way of escape, and that talking to someone can easily be that key in that open door. I want other young women to know this because they're walking around without physical chains on, but mental chains on.
Yes.
And those mental chains are telling them, I cannot tell a soul. I cannot tell my family. I cannot trust police officers. I cannot even tell a pedestrian that I see walking down the street. There's no hope for me, but there is hope. There are other survivors who have made it through this.
Yes.
There is freedom. There are organizations that can help you, even if you're in a state that you don't belong to, that you don't live in, that your family isn't in, that there are ways to get you back home. A lot of times these traffickers, most of the time, they move them from one state to another so that you lose the familiarity of your surroundings. So they become more afraid to speak out and say anything. But there's a voice out there for them, and they don't have to stay voiceless. They can reach out. They can go to websites like my website, whoisstolen.com, or even reach out to the police or go to the Polaris Project. There's a hotline. The hotline number is 1-888-3737-888. And that is a national hotline that sometimes they'll just listen to you about what you're going through and then give you next steps. But there is hope, and they need to know that there is hope.
Absolutely. I want to now move on to you started giving the hotline number. I want you to
Mhm.
keep that, but I also want to get into the educational piece.
Absolutely.
Because I think one of the main reasons why, well, I know one of the main reasons why I had you on the show is a lot of times the African American community does not think it happens in our community. And I want to shed light that it doesn't just happen in white folks' world.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real reality in the African American community.
Yes.
So, give us the hotline, and then the next question is, educate us about what's the difference between human trafficking and slavery.
Sure. The hotline again is 1-888-3737-888. And that is the National Human Trafficking Hotline, where they can go and get tips and get help on how to come out of their situation. The difference between human trafficking and slavery, that's a good question, because I think the misconception first for human trafficking is that it's like the movie Taken. We've all seen,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
going to take you, and goodness knows a victim wished that they had someone to walk them through these steps when this is happening, but
Yes.
it's not just this foreign element or this overseas element, or sometimes what you're seeing advertised with, young children that are, 5, and you just think it's not happening in the African American community. But what I have to say is that it's just not being reported
Absolutely.
in the African American community.
Yes.
We have a different terminology for it. We don't call it human trafficking. We call it pimping. We
Yes.
call it, this is just a part of a street life. And we are not going to say our community is infested with human trafficking. No, this is just a lifestyle. These girls are doing this out of their own free will. They want to be prostitutes. They want to sell their bodies. If you see in our communities where there are tracks, where there are prostitutes walking up and down the street all
Yes.
hours of the night,
Yes.
and no one ever stops to consider that some of these, if not most of these young women, are 13 and 14 years old.
Yes.
Because see, our African American young girls develop a lot
Yes,
earlier
yes.
than many young women of other nationalities.
That's true.
So our 12 and our 13-year-old girls
Don't look 12 and 13.
they don't look 12 and 13 years old. And you put heels on them, and you put fishnets on them, and you put wigs on them,
And it's dark and late at night.
and it's
on
dark and late
popping.
at night. You're not thinking that these are children, but I am telling you and I am guaranteeing you that they are children. They are our children. Another thing that happens in the African American community is that you will find that not many parents are reporting their children missing. Now,